Today, I'm going to talk about what happens once you have made an offer to purchase a home or condo in Mexico and that offer has been accepted. I'm really focusing on non-Mexican citizen purchases of homes and condos within 50 kilometers of the ocean or 100 kilometers of the border with the United States, Guatemala, or Belize. Whether you buy a home or a condo, you'll have about 5 or 6% in additional expenses. These will go towards your fideicomiso and related expenses, which is the trust document that gives you legal ownership of the property. I've talked about the fideicomiso before, but it's the document that allows you to purchase property near the coasts and borders of Mexico. You pay the bank an annual fee, and they'll hold the title in your name. I'll do my best now to break down the purchase process clearly and briefly. There are 3 ways to purchase or to pay for a property here. It's cash, through owner financing, or through a bank mortgage. There are US-based mortgage companies that will finance a property in Mexico on a 30-year note. In most scenarios, you'll pay 35% down at minimum, and then they'll charge a small monthly admin fee. I know here in Mexico, Banamex advertises home loans. They require 30% down and will charge an additional 1 to 3% on top of the loan, dependent on their risk assessment. So once your offer is accepted, you'll need to write up the buy-sell contract or fideicomiso promissory contract. This will spell out the terms, including the seller, the buyer, the property address, and details of what's included in the purchase price. There's going to be penalties included to the buyer or the seller for breaking the agreement. I think on our house here, if either party defaulted or withdrew, the penalty was 10% of the purchase price. On the condo that we purchased, there were penalty fees for late payments on our end, and the developer had penalty fees if the project wasn't completed on time. The agreement could include photos or diagrams of the property, and the contract is often 10 or 20 pages long. The contract is generally written in both English and Spanish, but the Spanish version is used for any legal disputes. I'd recommend that you have a real estate attorney review this contract, or if you have a real estate agent that is only representing you and not the seller, then that would probably be safe enough. It can get a little dicey when the agent represents both parties, as is often the case here, and that's a clear conflict of interest. Everything can be negotiated, including who writes the buy-sell contract. I think most real estate attorneys charge between 15,000 and 60,000 pesos to kind of hold your hand through the process. Our real estate agent wrote the buy-sell agreement for our house, but we had an attorney review it as the real estate agent represented the seller as well. The contract will have 2 original copies, and every page has to be signed. Both the buyer and seller will keep 1 original. Once the contract is signed by both parties, it's kind of a waiting game. You'll probably be required to make a down payment of 5 to 10% within a few days of signing the contract. Because the fideicomiso document is completed by a notary, the buyer and seller don't have a lot of control over the notary's timeline. Mexican notaries are different from the United States and probably Canada and everywhere else. They're attorneys that are appointed to the position by the office of the governor. In Ziwa, we have 4 notaries, but I know in some cities there's, these bigger cities have 20 or 30 of the notaries. In the buy-sell contract, you may negotiate with the seller which notary will be used to finalize the purchase. Different notaries can charge different fees. Once the contract is signed between the buyer and the seller, it can take 3 or 4 months before the notary finalizes the sale. With our help, with the house here, we held back 90% of the payment until the day the notary was ready to transfer the trust into our name. It was kind of a hectic day as both parties didn't want any shenanigans. We were transferring the final payment to the seller's bank account as we were signing the documents. The previous 3 months before that day, we were not allowed on the property unless the realtor was escorting us. And the sellers didn't live here in town, but if they were here, I would have said that they couldn't have access to the property during that time either. As soon as the documents were signed at the notary's office, we were given keys and went straight here to the house. If you're buying into a new condo or home development, then it can take 6 months or a year to get that fideicomiso. Usually once the property is paid for and construction is completed, you can move into the unit, but you really, really want that fideicomiso. Until you have that document, things like the electricity and water bill are going to be in someone else's name, and it can create some headaches. To recap, for our house, 14 days after our offer was accepted, we had the buy-sell agreement signed. But it was another 100 days before we received the fideicomiso and then the keys to the house. On the condo, we were making bi-monthly payments. We've made 5 of them, and the last payment was made 2 weeks after we accepted the keys to the condo. But it was another 5 months before we received the fideicomiso. If we did it over again, I probably would have held back the last payment for the condo until we received that fideicomiso. But fortunately, it worked out. All right, hopefully that helps you out, and thanks for watching. Take care.